it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano, and today we're going to talk about diminished chords, the devil's chord. So what precisely are diminished chords? What is the tritone? And today I'm also going to show you ways to practice it, how to find it on the piano, what type of music it's used in. And by the way, it's used in tons of religious music, so don't think it's a chord that has been banned from music. It's everywhere. The diminished chord is being used for centuries in such a wide range of applications, and it's a chord that you need to know about on piano and that you need to be able to find quickly. I often find students really struggle finding this chord on the piano and understanding its function, so I hope to help you in these areas today. So firstly, let's analyze what a tritone exactly is. What is a tritone and why is it called the devil's interval? Well, to understand what a tritone is, we sort of need to firstly understand exactly what it isn't. And this is exactly what it isn't. I'm now going to play a perfect fifth interval on the piano. This is the most perfect of all musical intervals, that and the octave. Let's have a listen to it. This is really the interval of nature, the octave and the fifth. But let's just hone in on the fifth. So why is the fifth so pure? Well, there's reasons for it. One of the reasons why it's so pure is that on this note itself, the C, there are harmonics ringing above that note. We might not be conscious that there are harmonics ringing above that note, but there is actually a perfect fifth ringing inside of that note, inside of any note that we play. It's what gives the note weight and buoyancy. And that's why a fifth note itself complements it so perfectly. So this interval was used all the time in sacred Gregorian chant and the earliest Western religious music because it was seen as the purest of all intervals. But this is exactly what a perfect fifth isn't. Let's just drop it down a semitone now. And this is the tritone. This is the devil's interval. And the tritone is the basis of what we're going to talk about today with these diminished chords, because the diminished chord is really based upon expanding this tritone. So for instance, I can have another perfect fifth, tritone, perfect fifth, tritone, and so on. So the first composer that really made the diminished chord a hit, made it popular to use and sort of normalized it in Western musical culture probably was J.S. Bach. Now, J.S. Bach was not some sort of, devil's music advocate. In fact, he was a committed religious man. He was a Lutheran, though. And the Lutherans had very non-traditional viewpoints about the way symbolism could be used in the church. And that gave Bach the opportunity to use lots of diminished chords in his music. And once he started using diminished chords in his organ music, the floodgates opened. It was used everywhere. And in fact, you hear a lot of diminished chords in gospel music today. It's even used in a really joyful-like way. That's the irony of the whole thing, right? Diminished chords have so many different contexts to it. You hear it a lot in musical theatre. You hear it a lot in melodrama. Can't you see Charlie Chaplin running across a stage when you hear that? So how do you practice the diminished chord and how do you find it on the piano? I'm going to show you a quick beginner's guide to start with to find it on the piano effectively. So what you do is you just look for a minor chord, let's say C minor, and then you just drop the fifth interval down a semitone. So I'm going C minor, C diminished, and this is a diminished triad. I'm adding a minor, and then a diminished triad on the top. So it's 1, flat and 3, flat and 5. So I can practice that by moving between minor chords to diminished chords. And by the way, if you like the work we do at the London Contemporary School of Piano, I'm just doing this in a few other keys. If you like our work, you should head over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, and you should ask for our diminished chords pack. We have our special Devil's Music Diminished Chord Pack, which has a whole series of really useful exercises on this topic. Otherwise, you could just subscribe to our channel and we can show you all of our new videos as they land. So you've seen that I'm playing these minor chords and I'm dropping the top note to find a diminished chord. And that's a really good thing to practice in as many keys as you can. So there's a C sharp minor, C sharp diminished, E flat minor, E flat diminished, and so on. And that is a diminished triad, a 3-note diminished chord. However, we can even expand on that further, and we can create what is known as a diminished 7th chord. So what is a diminished 7th chord? A diminished 7th chord completes this pattern of notes, and really whenever you see on chord charts or lead sheets a diminished chord, you probably should just go straight for a diminished 7th chord, which is this. So what exactly is a diminished 7th chord? A diminished 7th chord is the diminished triad with a further minor third interval placed on top of it. So if you have a look at this chord and the way it's comprised, it consists entirely of minor third intervals. That, to be precise, is 1, 2, 3 semitones between each note. So it's incredibly symmetrical. You've got 1, 2, 3 semitones here, 1, 2, 3 semitones here, 1, 2, 3. And if I added another 3 semitones here, I've got an entire octave here. Now, I don't have to play it like that with all 5 fingers, but you can see how incredibly symmetrical that is. That consists entirely of minor third intervals placed on each other. And that's the diminished 7th shape with 4 notes. And in this case, I think it sounds the most effective when using it when you're reading a lead sheet. So if the music's asking for, let's say, a progression like a C major to a C sharp diminished, I'd want to play all 4 of those notes. I wouldn't want to just play 3. Though if you're starting out with diminished chords, I'd suggest just start with 3 just to get used to it, but you're aiming to eventually get to those full 4 notes. So a jazz-like pattern that uses diminished chords would be something like a C major, C sharp diminished 7, D minor, G major. Now add a few more 7ths, C major 7, C sharp diminished 7, D minor 7, G7. That's just a rudimentary example. And so that's the diminished 7 starting on the C sharp. And again, you can see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We've got 3 intervals, 3 semitones between each of these notes, and it's purely even. So a really good way to practice it then is to practice the shape. So I'm going to show you 2 really good ways to practice the shape. And again, you should head over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, and ask for our Diminished Devils chord pack because it will really show these exercises, what they look like. It will just have them set up in a bunch of chord progressions that you can integrate into your practice. And it's really good and important to have the right examples. So I'm going to show you one other way of practicing this, which is really powerful, is to practice it in inversions. And I'm going to show you why you should practice it in inversions like this. See, I'm inverting each of these diminished chords. So the diminished chord also has another very quirky property about it, the diminished 7 chord. I like to call it the full diminished chord. I just think it's got a more appropriate ring to it because it's fully diminished. Yes, the 7th note has been diminished, but that often diminished 7 terminology confuses students a lot. So I like to think of it as we have a 3-note diminished triad and we have a full diminished chord here because it's just got a full sound to it. It's completely uncompromising, and you know there's famous Beethoven sonatas that start with the diminished chord because it's got such a striking tone to it. Anyway, so we have the first inversion. Now, this is the quirky property about the diminished 7 chord. When you place it in first inversion there from C diminished 7 to first inversion, we have a D sharp or E flat diminished chord. So we have a different diminished chord, but it's got exactly the same notes. An F sharp diminished chord is the same as a C diminished chord. So C diminished 7, E flat diminished 7, F sharp diminished 7, and A diminished 7 are all exactly the same chords. They have exactly the same notes in it. So it's one of the few chords, augmented chords are the same as well, that have this property that it inverts upon itself. So these 4 chords that are seemingly different, you might see on a notation and, a progression where an F major goes to an F sharp diminished, but that's got the same notes as a C diminished. So how do we decide what to call it? Well, usually that will be to do with where the bass is at. So if I play this, I'm playing a C diminished chord in the right hand and the F sharp in the left, we just call that an F sharp diminished. It's the same thing. So that's one of the, I guess, confusing but quirky properties about this chord. So that means that there are only really a couple of diminished chords. That's why they all sort of sound the same. So here we've got C sharp diminished, which inverts to E diminished, which inverts to G diminished, and which inverts to B flat diminished. D diminished, which inverts to F diminished, which inverts to G sharp diminished, which inverts to B diminished. So there's only those 3 groups of diminished chords. So let's now have some fun with this pattern. And I'm going to play a nice little chord progression that you can practice in a variety of keys. I'm just going to play it in C major. And by the way, the other great property of the diminished chord is it has a somewhat keyless effect to it. It's one analogy I like to make about a diminished chord, and just bear with me here, is imagine you're in a perfume shop and you're smelling a type of perfume, and you smell the perfume, and then you're going to compare it with another one, and the shop attendant gives you some coffee beans to smell, because if you smell coffee beans, it sort of neutralizes your smell again, and you can then take each scent as you go. The diminished chord's a bit like that. It clears the deck a little bit. It gives the sense of, oh, what key are we in? Oh, where are we? And composers use that. They exploit that to the nth degree. I'm going to show you a few composers that really exploit that. It's a bit of a party trick. Anyway, the first progression we're going to start with here is in C major, but it's using the diminished as passing chords. So, for instance, we've got C major, C sharp diminished, D minor, D sharp diminished, C major, C7, F major, F sharp diminished, C with the G in a bass, G sharp diminished, A minor, F major 7 over a G just because it sounds jazzy, and finish on C. It's a nice little progression to practice. And if you head over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, we'll send you this chord progression as part of our diminished chord pack, but in a number of keys. So you can really practice it, passing between diminished chords in different keys. I'm doing this now in F major. Give it a shake, that's always fun to do. So, now I'm going to show you some really cheeky things you can do with the diminished chord and really let loose and have some fun with it. So, we're going to now practice some double octaves. And a double octave is when you're basically just playing octaves in both hands. We're going to put the pedal down, and we're going to play some diminished arpeggios like this. Let's do this on a C diminished 7. So those of you who are still watching this video, you're being rewarded now with the funnest of all of these exercises. So if you spend a bit of time practicing that and get a bit of speed on it and start improvising and passing between other diminished chords, you can start doing some really fun things on the piano like this, the sort of things that Franz Liszt loved to do in a lot of his compositions. And so as I switch to the C sharp diminished, as I'm going down, I'm then just playing it in different orders, sort of scrambling up the diminished chord as it scrambles up the music. And a lot of the romantic composers, such as Liszt and Chopin, particularly Liszt, use the diminished chord to have the freedom to move to whatever key he wanted to. Truth be told, I think a lot of the times he was using it as a party trick. And Liszt was an amazing virtuoso at the piano, so he sort of seduced his audience with these like Hendrix-like shredding of the piano. But from a compositional viewpoint, it's just a bit of a party trick. So let me show you his party trick. So it's basically play in a major key. So he might be playing some beautiful romantic passage in a major key like A flat major. Diminished chord interrupts everything. Then I move to another random major key, another diminished chord. Then I move to another random major key, diminished chord. Then I move to another random major key. So make no mistake, this is a bunch of chords you can really have a lot of fun with. So I hope you've had some really good ideas and insights from today's tutorial. Head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, if you'd like to receive our diminished chord pack. And let us know how you're getting on with your practice. If you've got any questions, drop it in the comments below. See you soon.